We had three big delays for spring 2020 releases. Two of them were, I guess all three of them were technically not surprising, but two of them moved quite far down the year in terms of 2020. So the first one was Final Fantasy VII Remake. That got delayed from March 3rd to April 10th. So when that got delayed, people were like, oh wow, now we have a 3 week run of Resident Evil 3 Remake on the 3rd, RE7, Final Fantasy VII Remake on April 10th, and then Cyberpunk on April 17th. But unfortunately, April had a game move out of that slot in Cyberpunk 2077. It was delayed to September 17th, 2020. And we'll get into that. But the other delay that happened was Marvel's Avengers, which was scheduled to go in May, releasing on May 15th, but also got delayed to September, that being September 4th, 2 weeks before now, Cyberpunk 2077. I want to talk to you about what do you think the most significant delay is in terms of like the publisher's perspective, right, Dom? And then we talked about this a little bit in our group message. What's the most significant delay to you personally, right? So I'll start. I think there's out of these three delays, I think two of them are for quality all of them are technically for quality concerns. Marvel's Avengers had a rough go of it once it was revealed, and then people saw trailers. The Kamala Khan trailer got people a little bit more invested in what the game can be. That game getting delayed is not really surprising. Cyberpunk 2077, same thing. Their statement of it wanting to be a defining experience for the generation makes sense. CD Projekt Red also has a history of delaying games, just like Rockstar, because they make these like really detailed, big, giant worlds. The Final Fantasy VII Remake one was also for quality, but it's really significant because some people missed, I guess, that March 31st is the end of Square Enix's fiscal quarter and fiscal year overall. So it's the end of their fourth year, their Q4 fiscal quarter, and also their 2019-2020 fiscal year. And it getting delayed to April 10th means that Final Fantasy VII Remake gets moved out of that into the new fiscal year, which obviously has huge repercussions for stakeholders and their overall stock and investors and everything, right? So I think that's the most significant one because it had to be egregious enough of like a setback in development for them to move a month out of that fiscal year, because now they had to go up to their investors and let them know that their projections for the total revenue for the fiscal year are going to be down greatly, obviously because Final Fantasy VII Remake is going to be one of their biggest sellers, and it was likely the game that they put most of their numbers into in terms of trying to guess what they were going to make for the year, projected revenue. And I want to hear from you. What do you think about that? Do you think it had to be something significant because of that? You know, moving a game out of the end of a fiscal year is pretty significant for a business.
Yeah, the weird thing too, though, is it still is. It's just the short delay, right? Like just over a month. So that's kind of weird because it's a big move financially, but for only an extra month. So that is just weird, I guess, because you're right. There's so much incentive to try to get that done by the end of March. So I'm surprised that they were able to, basically get that approved only for an extra month. If you said I needed an extra 6 months or 3 months, then it's like, okay, obviously there's a significant change in quality from that. But like, not to say that a month can't make a huge difference, but that would be harder. I would imagine that'd be harder to sell when you're asking for a delay from your publisher. But yeah, you're right. It's definitely significant from a financial perspective.
Well, and with that, people, obviously, there's a very strong case to be made for Marvel's Avengers getting delayed, but some people feel it might have been a repercussion of Final Fantasy's delay going to April, because then you have Marvel's Avengers in May. If they're wanting to, if in terms of revenue, they want to make sure that they're earning revenue pretty evenly across the board at high rates throughout the year. So it being delayed to September makes sense for them to have something big in the fall, because if you think about it, it's like, what else would Square Enix have in the fall that could even contend? And Marvel's Avengers is a huge property. There's also, this goes to the Cyberpunk 2077 thing, which you had something personally you want to talk about with it in regards to PS5. people are thinking that maybe Avengers and Cyberpunk got delayed, not because the games specifically that are coming out on Xbox One X and PS4 Pro and the regular base editions are having issues. It's that they want to work towards having those enhanced next gen editions done, or at least the framework for the back end boost for those systems. So that way when people are getting those new consoles, they're also taking those experiences with them as well, or maybe buying it a second time for that system, however that goes. But you mentioned in chat that this Cyberpunk delay changes how you're planning to deal with the PS5 launch.
Yeah, I mean, it depends, because there's still so much we don't know about how, these late current gen games are going to be handled going into PS5 and Series X, right? So potentially it changes things, right? Because I like to keep an outlook, like, oh, what's coming out this year? How long is this going to take for me to play this? And I can kind of map out, what's going to go where at what times. So initially, Cyberpunk comes out in April or May, or was it April or May?
April, mid-April, yeah, 16th.
Right. So it's like, okay, yeah, that's, I'm going to spend all summer doing that. And then maybe one or two other things, and then that's going to be it for this generation, right? Because especially knowing that everything forward is going to be backwards compatible, at least with the current gen, then there's not as much incentive to stick around, right? But now, because this is such a large game, and I know that I'm going to want to be playing, it's going to take me months to play it, and it comes out in September, if there's not like a big difference between the PS4 version and these, presumed PS5 version, then I'm probably just going to stick around on PS4, and at least until I'm done with Cyberpunk, right? And then kind of upgrade. That's what I'm thinking, right? But if they say, oh, well, it's the same game, it's still a PS4 version, but, it's enhanced at least on PS5, then that changes things up too. So it kind of depends on how they handle it. But now, because the timing is closer, the launch of Cyberpunk with the launch of PS5, then it kind of potentially changes some things in the way I plan things out, but still some questions have to be answered.
Yeah, so for me, obviously, Xbox has had backwards compatibility on this generation, and PlayStation's looking to do that in the same kind of way with next gen. With Xbox, your game saves are also playable, right, for the previous gen games, like on 360.
Man,
I still have
Can I
my
point
cloud
something
saves.
out?
Yeah.
I forgot, because they're good at that shit. So I had played Halo 5 like 2 years ago or something. Or I don't know. It was a long time ago. Just played through the campaign, and it was a fun game. And I forgot about it. And then a few months ago, I just for shits and gigs I tried out the xCloud beta, right?
Yeah.
Boot up. Actually, I don't even really boot it up. It gets booted up somewhere in Seattle or whatever, or Washington, whatever, wherever their server.
Probably for you, a server in Chicago, I'd assume.
Probably Chicago. That's a good point. That's where all the emails go through for Microsoft is Chicago. But anyway,
Yeah.
Booted up on the xCloud beta, and then it fires me up right from where my last save was back when I played it on my Xbox at home, at least a year ago. I think it was almost 2 years ago. Like, I didn't even know that I had a save that was uploaded
cloud,
somewhere.
baby.
Yeah. Not only was it uploaded, so I could have, rebuilt it like at home on a new console or something, but straight into xCloud, even in beta, that was like seamless and fun. I have other thoughts on xCloud overall, based on the beta, but that part of it, I was like, holy shit, that's sweet. I didn't even think of that, and like, boom, here I am. I was on the last mission or whatever. They're pretty good at that cloud save thing. That's what I gathered.
We don't know exactly how PlayStation 5's backwards compatibility is going to function with cloud saves and stuff, so I can't speak to that. But for Xbox, I know for certain, because of my experience with it, that if I buy Cyberpunk in September, I start playing it, the day Xbox comes out, Xbox Series X, and I buy that thing, and I download Cyberpunk, the Xbox One release version of it, I'll have my cloud save, and I can just continue playing,
I would just about guarantee that you're right, yeah.
Yeah, so it doesn't really change anything for me. But I could see where you're coming from, especially if it's a game somebody's looking forward to. It's just, if you own an Xbox right now and you're planning to get the Series X, I don't think there should be any hesitation in picking up Cyberpunk in September, because it's going to work on the Series X. Like, you're going to be able to play it. Especially if you're already planning to like play Halo Infinite at launch and stuff like that. But maybe you don't pick up the Series X and you play Cyberpunk, so you're not tempted to stop and play a different game and, have it get lost in your backlog. Who knows? But sorry.
The other variable is obviously like, well, what else is coming out? And especially on the PlayStation side, it's like, well, is there going to be another PlayStation 5 or next gen exclusive game that I really want, like, to play on that console as opposed to the PS4? In that case, then it gets even trickier. That's kind of the other variable I didn't mention. That's obviously, if Horizon Zero Dawn 2 launches, in November, December, only on PS5, I think it's possible. More likely probably the following year, but that would really influence, and that would make things even trickier. I'm trying to figure out what to do, but yeah.
Well, the thing that Cyberpunk ruins for me, and I say ruins, it's not really ruins, but changes and alters, is that the new Assassin's Creed game, obviously it's rumored to be Ragnarok, but we know when the new Assassin's Creed game's coming out, those always come out in October, right? Like clockwork. So this coming out mid-September, that means that instead of me jumping on that in October because I'm impatient, maybe playing through Cyberpunk will let me be like, I'll wait till I pick up my Series X in November, we're assuming, might come out in October, and I can just play that then, right? So it kind of helps me in a way because I can just wait for that new Assassin's Creed game on Series X. You know what I mean? So who knows? We'll see.
We can get into a longer conversation a different time, I guess, but I'm just struggling to justify like the leap to next gen right now. If it's only going to be, enhanced resolution at the start or whatever, right? And that's kind of why I'm like, I don't know. I'd rather just play Cyberpunk on PS4 and wait half a year or something to upgrade. If all they're going to do is just the resolution's higher, I'm like, well, then I'll just wait, I guess. Because I already made that jump when that was basically the jump from PS4 to PS4 Pro, right? Which is great. But we're kind of all going to be capped at 4K, and 60 frames per second, right? So once they've hit that, which especially on the Xbox side, they already have with One X. So it's what extra are you getting by going to next gen at this point? That's what I'm curious to see how they sell that.
You also have to think about it is not most people who own a PS4 or Xbox One don't own the X or the Pro.
Right.
So the jump for especially like me, I still run on it. I don't even have an S. I have an OG VCR, right?
Yeah.
So I get you. I could care less about visual fidelity, like the way something looks. I mean, I care, but that jump isn't going to be astronomical. The performance thing, I think, will be the most easy to identify upgrade for people who own the base PS4 or the Xbox One. Not stuttering, especially with the game like Cyberpunk, man. You're talking about a game that is gonna. Anyone who owns a base Xbox One or PS4 that grabs that thing, even maybe a PS4 Pro, from what I've heard with the fan issues, you're going to be having a jet engine in your living room when that game comes out, undoubtedly.
I guess the biggest, or another large piece of it, is going to be the loading times too, especially on those types of games.
Yeah. It is a question for people to have, but that's the thing is we've had this question for generations of when the PS4 and Xbox One came out, the people who aren't going to upgrade. It's that with the fact that everything's backwards compatible now, they're having the people who normally would buy day one for sure, maybe not for sure, but pretty certain, like you and me, questioning of is it worth it? I'm always going to lean towards getting it because I like being an early adopter for stuff I believe in, right? I'm not just going to early adopt anything. And honestly, do you have a PS4 Pro or do you still have a PS4?
The Pro.
See, like I talked about, I have the base Xbox One, so I have the biggest incentive to just upgrade, right? I've staved off buying an Xbox One X or a One S. It's there is a new generation. I've needed to upgrade to my console, so might as well just do that. Why would I buy an S or an X? You know what I mean?
Right.
So, I get where you're coming from, though. It's a tough conversation to have.